What is up, y'all? My name is Will, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast, brought to you by us here at Schedulefly. Schedulefly is simple, web-based restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service. Every customer has my personal cell phone, and we also have a very low price point. We have not raised our prices since 2007, so with everything else going up around you, Schedulefly has not. If you are on pencil and paper or Excel, we'll make life easier for you and your team and save you time and save you money. If you are on another scheduling software, you're probably paying a lot of money for things you don't use. If you just want simple scheduling and communication that is reliable and backed by amazing customer service at a low price point, we'll take good care of you. Also, and by the way, that website is schedulefly.com, www.schedulefly.com. Free 30-day trial anytime you'd like. My cell phone, 704-906-2031. It's right there on the website. You can find it and call me anytime.
Okay. Take two. So if you're all listening, you don't know this, but Michael and I have been sitting here talking for 15 minutes, having this incredible conversation that we'll replicate as best we can. My dumb clown my gosh, I wasn't recording. Okay, fair enough.
All good.
Here we go. It's already been a day. So basically, to summarize, Michael's going to introduce himself here, but this is a great story for this podcast because he's a longtime listener. Him listening got him introduced to Schedulefly, which has been very helpful for his business. And that's just personally very exciting to me to have somebody that's a listener that's now on the podcast. And we've had this happen before. It's just an amazing experience. So, Michael, thank you. Thank you for being patient and being kind with me, just blooping on 15 minutes of content. Introduce yourself real quick, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Like I said, longtime listener, really excited to jump on. And I'm Mykal Zangwill. My family and I own 2 locations of the Fuzzy Peach Frozen Yogurt Bar, self-serve frozen yogurt in Eastern North Carolina. We have a store in Cape Carteret, which was our first store. And then we also have a store in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And doing it a long time. And just really excited to talk to you.
So, you know what you just did, man, which I love. You've got I could tell this from the first time I talked to you. You clearly have a very optimistic and positive mindset. And part of hospitality is being able to just overcome daily challenges and things you weren't expecting. So I'm sitting here looking at this screen 15 minutes in, you and I are having this great conversation. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't been recording. You're like, all good, dude. We got this. Let's roll. Like you immediately went into like, we got it. I love that. And I think that's a huge part of why you will be very successful in hospitality as long as you're doing it and whatever you do. It's just an important mindset, but I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. It's, like I said, I listen a lot and it always comes up about overcoming like different obstacles of the day. Like when you say literal fires, I can relate to that. Not for us personally, but our neighbor nail salon had a literal fire in their store a couple years ago. And that impacted us in some ways. And like, I can just go through the list of stuff this week that I thought I was going to not have to deal with or didn't know I was going to have to deal with and had a problem solved and just kind of roll with it because it's happening. So you might as well, what are you going to do? I mean, it upsets me in some ways, but like, you just got to kind of move on. You got to handle it.
You got to move on. It's what great athletes say, like a lot of it's like, so many of the best athletes, there's a lot of athletes that, professional athletes that might have the same skill sets, but they don't have the mental mindset to be able to like overcome something quickly and just put it behind them and go forward. Like, if you let something linger like that, it's challenging, but that's an important part of being an entrepreneur and being in business for sure. Okay. So what I had not asked you, and I do want to ask you is, do you remember, you said you've been listening to podcasts for a while. Like, how did you find it? Did you just, somebody tell you about it or you just came across it or?
You know what? I think I came across it when I was on Apple Podcasts. I've since switched to Spotify, but I listen to a wide variety of stuff. Most of it's entertainment. Try to, while I'm working, setting up the store, just driving. I have a long drive every day. So I just try to kind of relax and kind of let my mind just decompress a little bit. But I do like trying to find stuff that I can learn from, not just entertainment wise, but I don't remember exactly how, but I've been listening I know it was before the pandemic because I remember listening to all the, short clips and updates on the different restaurants owners you were speaking to at the time. So I know it's been since at least 2019 that I've been listening. I learned a lot from all the different guests you have, but I can also relate to so much of the stuff you guys talk about. You know, whether it's a regular restaurant or a hotel group, or, you know, we're a self-serve frozen yogurt shop. So our customer service and processes are a lot different than, you know, like a Sup Dogs. Like my brother lived in Greenville for a little while and went to visit. And I was like, dude, I got to go to a Sup Dogs. I've heard about this place so much over the last couple of years. I got to try it. So I finally got to try it a couple of years ago, and it didn't disappoint at all. It was exactly how it was described.
I'll tell Brett that. Yeah, if you've been listening to this for a while, you know I'm a fan. I'm a big fanboy of Sup Dogs and Brett and his whole story. I mean, he was actually one too that, you know the story. You've probably seen the video and stuff like that. Like when he got down there, he knew nothing, and he came across this podcast and, you know, started listening. And he read the book. That's what it was. He read our first book, and then you know, he contacted me and he's like, gosh, you know, I might need your help with scheduling. And next thing you know, he's on the podcast. He's in the second book, and I mean, they're just, you know, they're crushing it. But they okay, so as you know, and we'll go for take two here. I always ask everybody, how and when did you get started in hospitality? And so go ahead and tell us where this all began.
Yeah, I think the first time I had like a true job in what most people, if you said hospitality, most people they'll think a restaurant. So my first time doing that was a server at a Bennigan's. I got a job there when I was in college. I went to school to Westchester University outside of Philly, and got a job there for about 8 months there. They were in a weird transition phase with managers and ownership, and they were kind of struggling. And but it was an eye-opening experience because you had like all the stereotypical craziness of a restaurant, but like they weren't super busy. But to me, it was like just the craziest thing you could possibly do. My very first night of training, I spilled a tray of drinks on a guy, like, so it wasn't off to a great start, but, you know, figured out after a while. But I really think I've had a lot of other experiences that have led to more hospitality experience in training. Like in college, I did campus tours. And for me, that was, you know, welcoming people to the campus, showing them around, trying to sell them really on coming to my school. And, you know, the only perk of that was I got priority scheduling and the experience, but it was a unpaid club. So, but it was just a great experience. You had helicopter parents, kids who had their, you know, literal face buried face down the entire time, couldn't care what you had to say, but trying to find reasons to connect with them and show them this is a place they can make their second home for the next, depending on their academic abilities, 4 to 6 years. But yeah, I did that. And I've had a bunch of different jobs that have been probably customer service centric, but not traditional, what you would think of as hospitality.
Well, I think that, you know, we're touching on the core essence of hospitality. And I really love the thought process of doing campus tours being a part of hospitality, because so much of hospitality is that Maya Angelou quote. And we've talked about it on this podcast more than once. I think it's, you know, people don't remember what you say. They remember how you made them feel. And, you know, when you're doing these tours, you're representing your school. You're proud of your school. That's your place. That's your domain. You're not serving them food, but you're giving them an experience that you hope makes them feel good. The kid that's looking down may have been like, man, I'm not saying anything, but this guy's, I really like his vibe and I like how much he loves this place and he makes me feel good and I want to be somewhere like that. So that's what real hospitality is. And you know, it can be, I think, you know, Danny Meyer wrote this book, Setting the Table, and it's sort of like you know, people call it the hospitality Bible or whatever. And then Will Guidara wrote Unreasonable Hospitality recently. And, you know, those guys talk a lot about like hospitality is not a restaurant. It is, you know, an experience that you provide to your customers or to your guests in your business. And I think there's a reason that a lot of people outside of the restaurant world read those books, because that's what I can't imagine having a business and not being obsessed with the customer experience, because most businesses are always focused on growth and getting more customers. But I believe, you know, if you focus on the customers you have and give them a great experience, you will get more customers. And the cool thing is the ones that you have will stay, and that stuff starts to compound over time. You know, a lot of businesses, I think, lose sight of that. So you've got this, clearly you've got this mindset and you've done a few different things, but tell me about Peach Wave. Tell me about how y'all got involved. Fuzzy Peach, tell me how y'all got involved in the business as a family.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I'll give you the short version, but Fuzzy Peach got started in an area you're familiar with in Wilmington. And a couple guys from UNC Wilmington graduated. They were all kind of business majors, track team at the school, trying to figure out life. Some were selling like copy paper and all kinds of different stuff. And they're trying to find a business they want to start. And one of them ended up in California and found a frozen yogurt bar, took a picture of it, sent it to his buddies. Like, this is what we're looking for. This is what we need to start in Wilmington. And July of 2010, they opened up the first Fuzzy Peach location on Racine Drive, right off UNCW campus.
Yeah.
And they crushed it. And in a year and a half period, they opened up 5 in the Wilmington area, all over Wilmington. And this was kind of at the height of the second wave of frozen yogurt. Yeah. And they were looking to franchise. And my buddy from college, Tom, he, like, through 6 degrees of separation, knew the guys who were running Fuzzy Peach or had started Fuzzy Peach. And they were looking for a regional manager so they could focus on the franchising part of it. Because as you've talked a lot about franchising recently, it's a big undertaking. It's real big. So to run 5 stores and focus on franchising wasn't really aligning. So they hired my buddy Tom. So through him, we were excited. And there was a local shop I was going to. I was a teacher outside of Philly before we moved to North Carolina. And my wife and I were going frozen yogurt. When I say like 3 or 4 nights a week, we were just making excuses. Like, I think we need milk at Wegmans. We could get while we're over there. We'll hit the frozen yogurt spot. So we were really familiar with the business model, told my parents about it. They were also living in Pennsylvania at the time, and they're kind of just ready for something new, ready for a change, get away from the Pennsylvania winters. And next thing I know, they're moving out of their house, going to North Carolina. We're doing corporate training. And then we opened up our first location, Cape Carteret, in Labor Day weekend, 2012. So it's been a while now for us. And then we opened up soon after we started looking for another location. We agreed to do a couple, and we ended up with Jacksonville through a lot of processes of trying to find a new location. We found a brand new shell building they were doing, 4-unit building, and we opened up there. Great time for frozen yogurt, February 2015. So construction delays pushed us from what should have been a summer opening to a winter opening, but it all worked out in the end. So that's kind of the shortened version, kind of long but short, of us getting into frozen yogurt.
Where, how many Fuzzy Peach locations are there now?
And so the guys who started Fuzzy Peach shortly before we opened our Jackson location sold the franchising to a different company, and they've since sold it again. So we've gone through 3 franchisors in our 13 years. What years? Yeah, 13 years of doing this, which has been kind of a crazy set of circumstances in itself. But at the peak, there was almost 25 open. Now we're down to just 4. My family and I own 2 of them. There's one in Leland, North Carolina, and one still in Wilmington, North Carolina. One of the original locations was a corporate store sold to a franchisee. So 3 different owners, 4 stores.
Okay, gotcha. So do you look to, do you think y'all will expand and grow, or are you good with your 2, or do you look at other, like I hear a lot about these, and we've saw it recently, there's a lot of people that are doing sort of like multi-brand, multi-unit franchisees.
My dad's birthday's tomorrow. He'll be 73. So he's at a point in life where taking on that kind of challenge is probably not at the top of his priority list. And I have 2 small kids, 7 and 3. So these are, like, as you know, with kids, these are kind of the golden years of, they care when you come home and want to spend time with you. I coach my son's sports. So to do a 3rd location outside of our immediate area would really take me away from that. So I think I would like to have more stores, but right now that's on the back burner because I want to focus on spend time with my kids. When they care less about me and I could put them to work, that's probably when I'll look to expand a little bit more. But yeah, that's what we're focused on right now.
Amen, man. I'm glad you have that mentality because those years are so important and they go by so fast. And
they do.
I've been through them, and so now I'm in a situation where I'm just lucky to get like last night. I played 3 games of pool with each of my teenage boys. We have a pool table, and so I got that. That's about the extent of what I get these days. So
yeah, we like I said, I coach my son's basketball team. I do soccer. He started doing lacrosse, so I'm helping with that. So I just get to spend time with him that way because I do work a lot. I try to find time. I get off most weekends, but there's always something coming up pulling me away. And so I try to find time with that. But there's some locations that I would very much like to go into. I think they would do really well with frozen yogurt because there's not a lot of frozen yogurt shops anymore. It's not as easy of a business as I think most people think it is, and a lot of them have closed. And there's areas that I know we get customers driving from, either intentionally or they're also going to like the local Sam's Club, and then they hit us up as well. But so I think there's some areas that we could be successful, but the timing is just not great for us right now with where my dad is and where I am with my young kids.
So when you say it's not as easy as you would think, what do people think? What's the gap between how people think it is? I mean, I guess you don't need a lot of employees, and you just like, that's kind of like, you just yogurt in there, people and then you just throw toppings on. Is that like what's the gap there?
Yeah, I've lost count of how many people have stood in my store, and like I can see them kind of counting and doing like napkin math, and like, yeah, I'd love to own one of these. And I'm like, well, I've been here since 5 a.m. and I clean these machines, and it's a penny business. We've talked a lot about, or you've talked a lot about with your guests about cost of stuff going up. If, ends go up a few bucks a case, I can't just raise my price because I have one price for everything. We charge right now 64 cents an ounce, and that's for yogurt and every single topping. And then we just weigh it at the very end. So if something goes up or one particular flavor goes up, that's just, I have to eat that cost. I can't just, it's not like a pizzeria. Oh, pepperoni's up 10%. I'll just charge an extra $1 and cover the cost of that. I just can't do that. So that makes it challenging. There's a lot of waste because it's self-serve. That's the nature of the game for us. But, there's spillage, there's drops. Whereas if my staff and I were doing it, there'd probably be super minimal waste. So we deal with pennies, and that's really challenging. And the soft serve machines are more expensive than ever to repair. To get a technician in is time consuming and really, really expensive. So it's a lot of managing costs, and labor is not crazy because you can usually do it 2 or 3 people. Most days I work by myself in the store, and I can handle a pretty good amount of business before I start getting a little overwhelmed and losing that experience for customers. But it's just exactly what you described. People just do some napkin math and think it's pretty easy, but it's the nuance of those soft serve machines is tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet it is. So yeah, gosh, it is. Every single thing has gone up.
Yes.
And then you start getting, of course, in your situation, you're doing it by the ounce. So the customer's actually serving themselves. The reason I'm thinking through this is because I know there's ways restaurants can get away with like serving a slightly smaller portion of something, whatever. What do they call it? Shrinkflation or whatever. But you can't really do it.
No, I don't get any of those. I can't play with portion size and cost of the plate. I can't really alter those things. The best and we don't offer like the off-brand toppings. Like I could save myself a lot of money by switching from like name brand Oreos to the Walmart version of it. It's significantly cheaper. There's Webstron store sells both crushed cookies and cream, but I don't carry any of that stuff. I carry only recognizable brands. I label them by the brand name. It costs me more, but I think it at 64 cents an ounce, it's kind of a premium price point. So to charge a premium price for bottom barrel, maybe the quality is the same, maybe it's not. I'm not really willing to take the chance on Walmart brand Fruity Pebbles versus the real Fruity Pebbles. I feel it's important to offer just the best quality stuff we can in the candy and dessert category. Like that's just kind of where we are. But yeah, so that's kind of where we focus on, just trying to get good deals and manage labor. And that's just kind of it.
It's a tough business. It really is.
Yes.
How do you look, there's a big difference between you, your folks, your family, and how you view this business. This is your baby. It's your livelihood. And then you get, somebody coming in there that's, just an employee. How do you find people that, will treat your customers that will, at least it's just, some degree similar to how you would? That just seems like it'd be really hard to, and I think that's hard in any business as a business owner. At the end of the day, you're always going to care more and do more, and and you should, like, it's your business.
That's right.
But what do you look for a certain personality type, or what's been the experience? And I'm sure you've gotten better at it over time of finding folks that will show up when they're supposed to, and most of the time, and will not bring their baggage to work, and will look the customers in the eye and smile and make them feel, it's simple stuff, but in theory, but it's not easy to find people these days that will execute.
Well, every time I think I got it all figured out, I get slapped over the head with a dose of reality. But it's a challenge. It doesn't always work out perfectly. I don't bat 1,000 on hiring great staff. There's times where I'm like, they kind of fooled me from that interview process, but I never hire for skills because the skills that they're utilizing, it's a unique customer service experience. We're mostly there to support. We're not taking orders. So the nice thing about from a recruitment standpoint is I can say to you, Will, working at Fuzzy Peach, you're never going to get yelled at for making the wrong order. If you put cheese on the burger and they're not supposed to have cheese, you might get hollered at for that. That's never going to happen here. Or compared to a traditional scoop shop, if they tell you want vanilla with sprinkles, rainbow sprinkles, and you put chocolate sprinkles, they're going to be mad about that. That's going to be something you have to deal with. That never happens with us because it's self-serve. So if they do something wrong, they put something wrong. Now, if something was, expired or there was something wrong with it, and not that really doesn't ever happen, but if there's something wrong that we can take care of, that's different than we screwed up by ignoring them or not listening. So from a recruitment standpoint, I get to take advantage of that. Young people, we have a lot of young teenagers, college students. That's mostly who work for us. And we're super flexible with their hours and sports. Schedulefly has played a big role in managing all that. But I look for personality, people who can talk and just look at me in the eye and they can kind of just explain themselves. It's not easy to find people. So you have to teach certain things like how to answer the phone because they don't use the phone, or how to count coins because that's not something they've grown up having to do with digital payments or Apple Pay and stuff like that. But it's really personality and scheduling and their communication skills. I just look for people. I like people who are involved in things, not, where they have no free time, but something that shows they can manage their time. One of my longest standing employees is this kid, Steven. He's a college lacrosse player now, but his sister worked for me and he came in, Mr. Mykal, I'd love to work here, but I play a lot of lacrosse. Okay, how much lacrosse? And he kind of laid out his schedule and said, well, as long as you communicate it to me, I won't have any problems. And for 3+ years, he communicated that schedule to me. And there was months where I didn't see him a whole lot, and there was other months where I saw him a whole bunch. But he was good at managing his schedule, and he never missed a day of work. So we kind of look for that kind of stuff, people who can just communicate effectively. And it's hard to find. Some people you can kind of tell from the very first phone call or face-to-face interaction. And not that every one of our employees are the greatest communicators or the most personal people. They bring other skill sets. They're just reliable, or they're good at, you give them XYZ task and XYZ is going to get done no matter what. So just kind of a balance, and it's tough. It is really tough. During the pandemic, I haven't lost my hair, but it turned gray trying to find staff. But we've really recovered from that. And honestly, I mentioned before, but Schedulefly has been a big part of that. I know you don't promote Schedulefly too much during the podcast, but I was a listener for about 5 years before I finally switched. I was managing on Excel. People were emailing in requests off or texting me requests off and schedule changes. And as we grew and got busier, it became just too much for me to handle. I was screwing up and putting people on the schedule when they had requested off. And that was affecting my personal life because it was my mess ups and it was last minute. So I would end up working it. So that wasn't great for my wife and my kids. They weren't big fans of that. And we switched, and we haven't had that issue since. So anyone who's on the fence, I'm telling you, I got one of my buddies. He's an executive chef at a restaurant in Jacksonville. And when he got the promotion, he said, well, what are you using for scheduling now that you're in charge? And he's like, oh, we use paper and pencil. Dude, I got the thing for you. Showed him on my phone real quick, and he showed it to the owner. And they bought it right then. They didn't even go for the trial. They just bought it.
This is like the perfect, look, we started the podcast because, we wanted to create content that was inspiring and educational for our community. I mean, I've always felt like there's like any great hospitality business is, you're delivering your product consistently. Like the customer knows what they're going to get, and they expect, it's very consistent, right? Whether it's frozen yogurt or a steak or salad or whatever, like that place, like where do we go back? Will we go back? Like that place is always just consistent with the product. And then they are consistently making us feel welcome. They make eye contact. They're intentional. They're present. They're not scrolling their phone. They're self-aware of like how engaged maybe we want to be based on whatever. So there's like this experience that they create that makes us feel welcome, as we talked about. And then the third thing is, I mean, gosh, every single time there's some, whether it's the LA fires or what happened in the North Carolina mountains, like hospitality businesses are always donating their time and their money, and they're just doing everything they can to help their communities. And we kind of felt like, well, like our community is like the hospitality community, which is it's not a geographic place like within some circumference of where we are. It's everywhere. Like, what do we do? How do we do that? Well, hopefully we can, give people platforms to share stories that help other people. I mean, I hear people say sometimes they listen to this just for therapy because they know they're not the only one that's dealing with this stuff, and that's great. Or hopefully you pick up bits and pieces of actionable, replicatable wisdom that, you can deploy in your business. But to hear you listen and then, check our business out and then become a customer and now come on here. It's just, it just makes me so happy. Like this is like the perfect wheel of like all this stuff coming together. So I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you saying that. I mean, we don't try to promote, I don't want this to be an advertisement for ScheduleFly, but I'm always happy if somebody, says something like that, because I mean, like I'll probably take that clip and, that there's to this day right now in this country, there are a couple 100,000 restaurants that are on pencil and paper. They're on Excel and they're like, we're fine. And maybe they are, but sometimes they don't know, like, you don't have to have the missed shift or whatever because you forgot the person that had the birthday, and stuff like that. Like that can just go away quickly and easily. And that's what you found. And you told me, I think, you were kicking yourself after that you took so long. But so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's one of the things I listen to podcasts for is to relax, but also try to pick up little nuggets here. And we're not a huge company. We're not like, I work in the stores most days, 5, 6, 7 days a week, depending on the week. But so we're super hands-on. My dad's the same way. He's in there today. My son's sick today, so I'm at home, and he jumped in the store that I was supposed to work in today. And but I try to pick up little nuggets, and ScheduleFly is one of them, basically. And we were really happy with it, and it's alleviated a lot of the problems. And we try to find things that work for us, and it might not work for other places, but ScheduleFly, I think, is one that will work for everybody.
Well, it's been interesting because there has just been so much money invested into restaurant tech, not just like our just restaurant tech. Like that. Like, do you get people trying to sell you stuff all the time?
What we get to try to sell on is credit card processing more than anything. I get called multiple times a week on that, but not so much for us. We use basically three things. We use you for scheduling, a company called 5 Stars for our loyalty and text message marketing. So that's basically a tablet-based, cloud-based system that we can award points, and then people can sign up through with email, text message, and then we can communicate with them that way. And they get, I set up different rewards for point thresholds and visit frequency. So that's been really great for us. And then we just have a POS provider. So that's really the three tech that we use. And none of them are integrated. I probably would like some integration, but we used to have a loyalty program that was integrated into the POS. And if that went down, the whole software stopped. We couldn't check anyone out. So it's like, it was easier because the employees didn't have to worry about inputting any points or phone numbers. It was really easy from that perspective. But when the back end of it crashed, nothing else worked. It was like it held it up. And that might have been a limitation with that particular provider. But I have an external tablet for the customer, an external tablet for my employees. And we just work on training on how to manage that. And we've had very few problems with it. It works great. I like to keep it simple with everything, because at the end of the day, it's self-serve frozen yogurt. What are we talking about here? It's fun. It's easy. It's supposed to be a good time. My staff is supposed to enjoy themselves. And if I'm throwing stuff at them that overly complicates what should be a very easy job for them, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. So that's why those things fit into what I'm looking for. The simpler, the better. I don't want to have to spend a lot of time on training in those areas. I want to train in, food safety and keeping things clean and customer service. I don't want to have to spend an hour or 2 hours on scheduling. The only thing I do on ScheduleFly is, here's your username, password. Here's how you request off in case you can't figure it out, and make sure you have text alerts turned on. That's pretty much it.
That's it. Yeah. Well, when you've got the two, how far are the two locations from each
They're
other?
about 35, 40 minutes apart.
Do you have days where you're at both, or you go to one day, one the next, or?
So where I live, my wife works for the school system out here. She has a very long commute of about 10 minutes. So when I head to Jacksonville, I pass by our Cape Carteret store. So that store is a little bit bigger for us. So we keep a lot of our bulk toppings and stuff there because I don't have the space in Jacksonville. So I usually stop there in the mornings, grab some stuff, and then I'll head to Jacksonville. I usually work at least one day a week in Cape Carteret. And then, if I'm doing hiring, I'll spend a lot more time in one store than the other. But I'm typically in Jacksonville. My dad lives just down the road from the Cape Carteret one, so he goes there. But I spend most of my time in Jacksonville. But I do all the training for our staff. So I'm getting ready to hire for Jacksonville. So some long days and long weeks there for about 2-3 weeks when I get that rolling. But I usually have most weekends off, but mostly Jacksonville is where I spend a lot of my time.
Okay. One of the things, I'm curious about this 5-star thing. I want you to tell me about this because one of the things I keep seeing is, and I'm curious about is Google reviews seems to be like where people it used to be Yelp or whatever, but it seems like Google reviews is like where people that's driving a lot of traffic because it's, you can be great on Instagram and people can see it all over the world, but at the end of the day, there's like this small, these expanding concentric circles of like how likely somebody is to come to your place based on where they live and all that stuff. And a lot of times people, particularly I would imagine like down there on the North Carolina coast, I know you've got your sort of established like military presence, but then you've got a lot of vacationers in the summer or something. So how do y'all try to foster Google reviews, positive reviews with your customers?
Yeah, great question. One of the things with my loyalty program is based on so many visits, I can send them, it'll automatically send them a link to our Google reviews and also send them a coupon. So they don't have to leave a review to get the coupon. They get the coupon no matter what. But we run a lot of Google. I also run Google AdWords for the area because like you said, Cape Carteret, we have a lot of loyal everyday customers, all-time customers, but we're a big tourist area. Emerald Isle Beach is just down the road from us. And that's like routinely named one of the best family beaches to visit and vacation at. So I run a lot of keyword search stuff for that. And we don't get as many Google reviews as other restaurants. Sometimes I wish we would have more, but also times I'm glad we don't get that many because people's opinions can, the slightest thing can leave a bad review and it's out of context or, it was just an off day for us. We made one mistake and now we got a 1-star review that sits at the top. So it's a love-hate relationship with the Google reviews. Google's a little bit better about the way they list the reviews. Yelp is really tough, like really tough. And I find with Yelp reviewers, they're more likely to leave a negative review, whereas Google, I feel like we get more positive reviews and than on Yelp just feels a lot more negative. But I mean, I personally use Google reviews all the time. Like if we're in a new area, I'll pop in restaurants, go top rated. And, based on the reviews, like you kind of have to form opinion and you're willing to try some things new. We've been trying to visit new restaurants that we've never been to and give them a chance for, as long as it's not like, 2.0, where you're worried about your food safety. But the other thing I'm seeing people use is Apple Maps more. If they're iPhone users and they're using Apple Maps instead of Google Maps and they're searching within Apple Maps, that data pulls from Yelp, I believe, and TripAdvisor. So that's a little different than the Google reviews. But honestly, with our Google page, I get more traffic on that than I do any of my social media. Like we'll get thousands and thousands of views, according to Google at least, particularly in the summer months, warm months, which is not recently. The snowstorm was brutal down here, and Google's powerful. It's really amazing how many people utilize it to make choices on where they spend their money.
I can't remember if it was on an episode or even if it was, whether I've even published it yet, but somebody was telling me recently, if I'm remembering this correctly, they would have their staff ask for a Google review and say, would you if you would give us a Google review, please put my name in there. If we're doing a drawing for $100 gift card or something like that. And so, I'm hoping to get a bunch of good reviews for our store. Because then it's like the employee asking, it's a little bit more personal. And somebody was telling me, they said they were getting a lot of like really great reviews. Kim, we had a great time and Kim was awesome, whatever, you have to kind of pick your customer and like, the ones that seem happy or whatever. But like people that are in there that are happy and having a good time, well, if you're like, hey man, like, it'd be really cool if you did, if you do, no pressure, but mention Will, and we got this cool draw. Because then you're feeling like, oh, good. Well, maybe instead of feeling like I need to leave a big tip, like maybe that person, I'll leave them a Google review and they'll get a chance to something like that. But
yeah, I'll ask occasionally, depending on the person, like if we don't take credit card tips, because it's self-serve. I feel kind of weird about taking credit card tips for that. I know a lot of places do, and people leave them, but we don't. We have a little tip jar for cash, and we don't ask. We don't have the tablet flip around type of thing. It just makes me uncomfortable being self-serve. But if you're like, oh, you don't. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, you don't take credit card. I'm like, no. They're like, I was like, but that's okay. I appreciate you thinking of it, but if you want to leave us a review or just tell a friend to come, that means a lot. And whether they do or they don't, that's neither here nor there. But some people are big reviewers. Like some of these people who leave reviews, I'll click on their profile and they leave hundreds of reviews. And then you get people just leave ones here and there. I try to leave good reviews for places that are small businesses that take care of us. I don't leave any bad reviews. If I have a bad experience, I'll message them on social or send them an email or try to reach out that way. But I only leave 5-star reviews. If it's not a 5-star, I'm not putting that out there. I wouldn't want that for my business, just airing out, one little mishap a server had, or the cook, they forgot bacon or whatever. To me, that's a trivial thing that, if it's that big of a deal, I could speak to them on site. But I just wish more people would do that, bring problems to managers or staff before storming out of there and having a Facebook meltdown.
Dude, I can tell you this. I bet you that 99.99% of people that leave negative reviews on any of these review sites have never owned a business. Because if you do, you do exactly what you do. You'd be like,
that's right.
No, we're not taking them down. But we'll send a note or we'll talk to the manager, whatever. That's an opportunity for us to help this business. Not like, let's not hurt them. So, yeah, I'm glad that y'all don't do the screen turnaround. It's a weird thing. Like
it is. It puts a lot of pressure on people, and I feel like, whether you feel like you want to leave a tip or not, when they turn around, it's going to ask you a question like, okay, like I was going to tip anyway, but now I feel pressure to do it. And, as someone who's worked restaurants and, my family owns a hospitality business, and I tip well when we go out, but like, man, it's a drive-through or, I ordered and you just handed it to me real quick. I was going to leave $1 or, round up anyway, but now it's spinning around. It puts a lot of pressure on people. So that's why we don't do it. I know shops that do it, and they make a ton of money for their staff, and it's great. I don't know. What do you think about that for self-serve?
I don't like it I'm just not a fan. I went, if I buy a $4 cup of coffee and then you turn the screen around and it's like, oh yeah. If I'm paying $4 for just a cup of black coffee, I would think you're probably paying your staff decent. And then there's this weird dynamic. It is a social, that is why those companies put those on.
That's right.
That's why the point of sale, it is a social pressure and it does drive results. See, again, dude, I'm so into this stuff. The difference between driving measurable results like that, sure, short term, yes. But I just believe a brand that really, really cares about the experience and thinks about the way you do, because you just said it, you just don't feel comfortable. That winds up being to your benefit over the long, if you're playing the long game, because people are getting tired of that. We all know you go out with people are just we're all having this conversation. I'm so tired of feeling this pressure to do. So then you go somewhere, it's like, oh, I didn't have to screen. I like this place. It becomes, but here's the thing. Spreadsheet guy can't manage that, and I'm talking about big companies that have they're massively backed and they've got they're owned by private. So, oh, well, if we do this and it looks good on a spreadsheet, but but that doesn't translate into this emotional connection that we make with our guests and that hospitality experience. No, it's not measurable, but the ones that do it right and do it well and do it for they're the ones that just keep getting customers coming back over and over and over.
Yeah, it's we get people occasionally oh, I can't leave a tip on the card, and that's not. No, we just don't do that, and it doesn't happen often. Maybe a couple times a year. So I know there's people that would do it without feeling uncomfortable or feeling a type of way about it, but I don't think that's the majority of people. It's just getting asked everywhere, and I just want my staff to do stuff because that's how we do it, not to earn a tip. And we do have the cash tip jar, and, particularly in the summer when we have a lot more big people coming through and tourists, and a lot of tourists travel with cash, they make good tips on those nights. But it's not the norm. And that's not why I want them to be doing it. It's nice. It's a byproduct of it. But they're also not making anything, and, they're keeping the area clean and welcoming people and just giving a good environment. But their main objective is not to earn tips. Like, I just want them, we've increased wages over the years. All of our staff are making between $10 and $12 right now. I'm trying every year, I try to push that a little further within our budget as much as we can, but it gets harder and harder with cost of things go up. But I've tried very hard not to raise our price.
Oh my gosh. Hey, Joe.
Hey,
Joe,
how's it going?
Hey, I'm actually finishing up another podcast. Can you jump out and then come back in like 5 minutes?
You got it. No problem.
That's a first. I didn't
Cool.
realize what time it is. Okay, yeah, because
No, we'll wrap it up. No, we try. I don't know if this term has been used before, but I call it proactive customer service stuff. So when we train, I try to get them to do certain things, ask questions a certain way, take care of things ahead of time so that we don't have the complaints that lead to the bad reviews or having to deal with an upset customer, because we took care of that ahead of time by being proactive. And if you do those things, I think people are more likely to tip if they have cash or throw a few bucks in. But again, that's not the purpose of it. We want people to have great experiences where they come back and back. I have a lady in my Jacksonville store, Miss Desiree, and her adult son, Jonathan. He has autism. And every single Saturday, that dude hits Taco Bell, and then he comes to us and he gets a big old cup. And, he makes a little bit of a mess, but and she tries to clean up. Miss Desiree, no, that's what we're here for. This last 2 Christmases, she's given a Christmas card with $20 in it to all of my staff as a thank you for taking care of them every single Saturday. But I hook her up with her favorite flavors when she comes in, because, we only have it every once in a while. Of course, it's her favorite, the one we don't get into often. But before we get rid of it, I make a bunch and freeze it for her and, make sure she's taken care of, because she's been coming every day for literally 9 years, every Saturday for 9 years. And when Christmas or a holiday falls on that Saturday, she comes the day before and loads up, because, with his autism, he expects certain routines, and Taco Bell and Fuzzy Peach is his Saturday routine. And I tell the staff, if you don't see Miss Desiree by 1:00, call the police, do a well check,
right,
because they don't miss. And that's, to me, what makes us such an exciting business is you get people like that. People tell you how much they love coming and they look forward to it and they love that place. And there are a lot of businesses that I feel probably get that same experience, but it's fun for us. We really enjoy it.
Have I sent you a box of hats and socks?
No. I would love a box of hats.
You want the tube socks too, dude. They're freaking cool.
Yes, I've seen them. That'd be awesome.
So that I don't forget, will you email me and just say, hey, reminder on the hats and socks, because I'm going to jump on and do this. I don't want to forget. Y'all need some hats and socks down there.
I appreciate it. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Man, dude, I cannot tell you how much I have enjoyed talking to you, how much I appreciate your whole story and this journey, and you listening to this podcast for all the time that you have. And then now you're a customer, and now you're telling other people. Dude, I don't know how to properly express how much I appreciate you, but I do, and your team. And thank you for doing this, and thank you for listening, and thank you for being a customer, and thank you for doing what you do and making a difference in that community. And, just the story about Miss Desiree and herself, it's freaking amazing, man. It's something to hang your hat on and feel proud of. And, when you lay down at night and you got a lot going on, you got kids, but you're running a business in the right way. And I'm proud of you, and I'm sure your folks are. And I appreciate you, man. Mykal, thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate saying that. Not perfect by any means, always trying to get better and learn. But you do a lot for your community too. I know, you live out there in the Charlotte area, but restaurants all over, it's a lot what you guys do. Schedule Fly and the podcast, it makes a really positive impact. So I appreciate you as much as you've appreciated me.
Well, thank you, man. If you remember, shoot me an email. I got to get you some hats and socks. All right.
I appreciate it. I'll wear it proudly. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Mykal. See you, man.